Yo, another week, another hip hop podcast. This is Mayron. You'll find out more about me as this podcast goes on. As always, I'm here with the illustrious, the wonderful, the slightly annoyed.
Hey y'all, it's Bria, Killer Kung Fu Wolf bitch.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep that. And the curator. Hi y'all, welcome back. I'm happy to say I have a very close friend of mine who I've been trying to catch a few times to get in this room, but we got him, y'all. It's my big homie, Nigel.
Hey, what's up?
Nigel Mack.
How you guys doing?
He is a member of the music industry, and that is how we will refer to him.
Leaving
as
it at
such.
that. Right. Yeah. Do your Googles if you need to know more.
You can figure it out. It's not that hard. He actually follows us on Twitter, which you should too.
Yes.
At A Hip Hop Podcast, and feel free to build that page up and help us sort of like get a little larger, share this podcast with people that you know would like it.
And join our chats.
For sure. So, last week, I think I introduced you guys to the concept, or maybe 2 weeks ago at this point, of Mayron's SoundCloud Corner, where I come in and I talk about a couple projects that I really like that are pretty much SoundCloud based that I think people should know about. So, this week I have a couple that I want to talk about, and the first one I want to start with is Brittany Carter. Brittany Carter is from Chicago. She could rap her ass off. Now, this is an era of women rapping their asses off for sure, right? Like, no holds barred. Women are rapping better than men constantly.
Right.
And, you know, we'll leave it at that. Brittany Carter, even amongst that, is special. She's Chicago born, Chicago bred. And the kind of bars she gives you is more reminiscent of, I would say, like, early 90s Styles P and Havoc and Mobb Deep, right? It's like, it's that level, but with like a 2019 sort of freshness. And so that's what I really enjoy. So the first project that I would say to check out is, so she does this cool thing too, where she harkens back to tapes, where tapes had one song on side A and another song on side B. And so she releases songs in like two track EPs, and it's all side A, side B. And so the side A, side B that I wanted to talk about is called Supplicate. So it has two songs, Practice and Supplicate. So go give that a check out. Okay, cool. So shifting gears entirely, the other project I want to talk about is much more mellow. Brother Kamal, who's apparently a local DMV artist. Shout out to him. I did not know that before today. I want to say in, let's see, what year was this released? A Gorgeous Fortune.
Yep.
This was released, I want to say, in 2016. And this is like drinking a tall glass of refreshing spiritual water. Right? So let's say like you're in need of some sort of meditation. Let's say you're in need of some sort of rebirth. Let's say you're in need of some sort of optimism. That's how I would describe A Gorgeous Fortune, much like the title itself describes it as. He did actually his best song, not his best song, the best piece of music that he's ever released, in my opinion, was actually a rendition of Outkast's Hey Ya.
Yes.
And he did this amazing thing where he flipped it. And if you start there and then go to A Gorgeous Fortune.
Did you guys ever see the live version?
Yeah.
The
live version is amazing.
And that was one of the first songs you actually played me, I remember. I was like, yo, he got this crazy. Yes. And that after that, I was sold personally.
Yeah. And so if you go to, SoundCloud, he has the entire project of Gorgeous Fortune on there, all the way from Jumbo all the way down to Police. It's just an amazing project from front to back. You guys have any artists you want to shout out real quick?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, definitely Kamal, Brother Kamal, Marco McKinnis, Dean Spencer, Aaron May. Those are a few.
Hold on. Let's stick on Marco for a second, because Marco just had a Colors performance, right?
Yes.
Yep.
What song did he perform? I can't remember.
He performed Give It Up.
Give It Up, yeah.
Yep.
So I know last year, Marco released a project, a small project, an album called Underground.
Yep.
And I think this project I really, really enjoyed for like late night drives.
Yeah.
Like it's the perfect vibe for that.
I feel that.
So show the DMV some love. Shout out to Marco, shout out to McKinnis. He retweeted us the other day on Twitter. So, appreciate that. And I think that's it this week for Mayron's SoundCloud Corner.
Yeah. Pretty extensive. We gave them a couple artists to look up. So
it's a lot of people.
Tell us your faves, honestly, and your favorite songs and projects.
Yeah. So today, the actual episode that we want to talk about is, I think, three of us came today to talk about visuals.
Yes.
And this is Bria's thing.
Hey. I'm trying to hold my excitement and not take over the whole shit, but
this is Bria's thing.
Yeah.
So do you want to start us off today about talking about music videos and sort of what they mean to you as a person and what they mean to, I guess, the music industry in today's climate?
As far as importance, I would say, especially I think with the discussion of representation and how important that is and how it can definitely get portrayed wrongly if it's in the wrong people's hands. I think that's one of the main things that I fell in love with about music videos, because I feel like it was one of the strongest ways for artists to show us themselves and their type of artistry and narrative, whatever that may be. I think that gave a lot of artists kind of one of the only outlets to have a certain level of creativity that I think now we still kind of study with like Missy Elliott and like Busta Rhymes, who we're going to talk about like very soon. But like, I think that's where they were able to showcase their creativity in an industry that at that point and still can at times constrict their artists and not allow them to be as outward or as imaginative, I would say, in their music. I think it's really reflected in the music videos. I appreciate also, because just the way that my mind kind of thinks, I've always came up with narratives in my head or storylines as I've listened to music. That's kind of how I consume music, is coming up with my own like visuals and ideas while listening to it. So my favorite thing about music videos was like the narratives and the kind of like the exploration of ideas that came from artists themselves, like literally their mouths. I think it was a great personification of artists' music, and it gave us like a visual storyline or narrative to something. And then to me, that's just important. I'm always going to be a visual learner. So things are most impactful to me when I consume them visually. So from like the beginning of time, starting with like Michael Jackson's, do you remember the time when I was like fucking 4 years old? Like I sat in front of that TV and studied that music video. And, seeing that progression, seeing how popular Michael Jackson, I will give a lot
Michael
of this
Jackson
to him.
Actually changed the whole...
He did.
He's the reason we're even talking about all
right.
Because Thriller was the moment that changed everything.
Yep.
It's possibly the greatest music video of all time.
I agree. Because when Thriller dropped, it was kind of like, I think everyone in the industry at that time and just people watching were just like, oh man. Like, so you can really use this medium to take it to a whole nother level.
Yes.
Than just doing a basic performance shot.
Right.
Like, you can actually tell a story from the song and make it a mini movie.
Was he like was he the first to really popularize that, I guess, to like create a whole cinematic experience?
And he was the artist that brought it to TV. That famous story about David Bowie fighting, saying that he would leave MTV if they did not play Michael Jackson's music video.
Because at that point, MTV didn't play Black artist video at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
So even now, when you look back at Michael Jackson videos, you see that where Missy and where Hype Williams, you see the evolution, like where it all came from.
I think it was always one of the strongest exercises of creativity and like imagination for the artist specifically. Yeah. I mean, I could talk about it all day.
I think we all have a certain respect and appreciation for like the history of like where music videos came from. But like coming up, especially like when you were in middle school or when you were in high school, what music videos stuck with you?
Oh, definitely. I could tell you, like, for me, it was like, I would say like EPMD, like...
Shout out Chuck D.
Yeah, Public Enemy.
Yeah.
Like Beastie Boys. All that type stuff. Oh, Tribe Called Quest was heavy.
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul. Oh, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul was super heavy. In rotation.
Well, A Tribe Called Quest did a lot of like interesting things with their music video, right? In contrast to everyone else, what they were doing.
One of my favorite videos, I was watching it last night on YouTube. I left my wallet in El Segundo.
Yeah.
I mean, the song makes no sense, but the video is so
none
fire.
whatsoever.
But that's the point. It's like, no one cared.
Yo, that song actually makes
Tribe's
no sense.
videos were like, I feel like in that era, like, that's when you started seeing rap videos reflect the song more in depth.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's what made songs. Like, I remember the first time I saw the video for Diggable Planets.
Yo, shout out to
That
Diggable
shit
Planets.
was so fire. It's like, oh, they in a jazz club and they're so lit. They just look
cool as fuck.
Yeah. And it was like, okay. And that made me appreciate the song even more.
Right.
And then that's when rap and video really started to marry each other and just be great. And that's when you seen the birth of, like, the Hype Williams. Yes. And all of the video directors with vision coming up. So
it's interesting, right? Because we, three of us, all represent different micro generations. Yeah. Like I was born in 92. What year were you born in?
92.
Yo, you 92 too? Mm-hmm. I thought you were younger than me. Oh wow, you learn something new every day. My birthday's last week.
Oh yeah, mine's in September. So we're at the ends of the
with the ends of the 92 spectrum.
Yeah.
And then
I'm way older than all y'all. 73.
73. So it's definitely a different generation. Because like I know when I came up, the game for music videos was very, very different from like what you're describing, right? When I was coming up, the hot videos were like Dem Franchise Boys had a great video, and Young Jock had a great video, and it's crazy, like because like I think like Tip Drill and like music videos like that sort of changed the way.
Tip Drill changed shit though.
Yeah, it changed.
That was the first like. That was pre-BET Uncut and all that.
Yeah,
that was the first like, oh shit. It's
butt
all
cheeks.
girls.
Yeah.
But it was mad controversial with the credit cards down to the butt cheeks and all that.
It changed sort of the way people viewed, I think, and used music videos for some time, right? Mm-hmm. And like, it became a lot more materialistic. It became a lot more about like what kind of cars you had in the music videos.
It became more of an exaggeration than a representation.
Exactly. It became a lot less reporting because immediately before that, and the prelude to all that happening was sort of like the bad boy era of like the shiny suits and having things blinged out, right? And it's crazy to see how things progress because you just brought up a great era of like, yo, look at the Tribe Called Quest and look at what they did. Look what Diggable Planets did. And look at sort of like the realism brought to these videos and look at the narrative brought from Michael Jackson. So slowly we went one way with that, right? Where we went what I'll call the Mobb Deep way. Because Mobb Deep has a beautiful video for Shook Ones.
Oh, Shook Ones was amazing.
Has a beautiful video for Shook Ones where it takes like sort of the darkness of it all, and like Wu-Tang obviously has some amazing music videos. Shouts to that Wu-Tang Mass Appeal doc. One of the reasons that I think we're doing this episode today is I was watching that doc yesterday, the second episode, and I believe it was RZA who was saying, yeah, we're gonna keep the time barcode in the ODB video, like the first one. And the record exec was like, really? And they're like, yeah, we're gonna keep it. So you went down this one path of like super hyper realistic, gritty sort of narrative, and then you had Diddy come out in the exact opposite, where it's like super blinged up,
flashy,
and then our generation took it and went that way for a while.
Yeah,
and then we came back around to I think some of the stuff that you want to talk about, especially Bria. Yeah. So what was that transition back to, I guess, the Flying Lotuses and the Tierra Wax of the world like?
I mean, I think one of the things that kind of started the dichotomy with the two differences in music videos, the same thing that kind of happened and we kind of still see happening in hip hop. I mean, all these subgenres are being created now, but for such a while, it was kind of like you're at one end of the hip hop, or you're like the trap scene, hood scene, like that type of shit. And then the other side was like the anti of that. So the nerd, the backpack wearing, sneakers, skateboard wearing ass. And then in that same right, kind of like artsy fartsy. It was like more realism trap shit and then more artsy fartsy shit. So I think that transition kind of came when certain artists that were still in hip hop or still black artists that kind of like, you know, I want to get deeper. I want to add more of a narrative. I want to have more of a story. And we kind of got, hip hop has always been storytelling, but I think we kind of derived from that narrative with kind of what Mayron was saying. We were kind of in that flashy kind of era of it. And we kind of like circled back to that. And it's like, no, like I'm talking about real shit here. I want that real shit to be better reflected. So I think for me, that big change started happening with Flying Lotus. Especially because, like I said before, I think they started looking at music videos and kind of started looking at it through a lens of like, this is a short film. Like, this is a short movie and like how to better tell that story from like a film narrative. Because Flying Lotus premiered one of his music videos for one of my favorite projects from him to this day, other than this album that just dropped, which I would love to talk about at the end.
30 tracks, almost 27. Yeah.
But so good. And still such an easy listen, which was the most surprising. But he premiered one, and to this, my opinion, to this day, this is one of Flying Lotus's best music videos, which was presented as a short film at Sundance, which was called Until a Quiet Comes. That was just a beautiful story. And all the ways that we kind of saw, like we previously talked about the exaggeration, I feel like people were kind of hit over the head with the materialism and like the boisterousness. And this was like the literal opposite with that. I mean, they still, metaphors and similes and all those things, but it was stripped.
The
and it was
subtlety
raw, and it was right.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it left way more to, it left you asking way more questions than these previous music videos, you know, and it was kind of like left up to your interpretation. There were different ways to interpret these music videos now and these stories rather than before. I feel like it was very straightforward.
What's really weird is there is a bridge though between that. And I think that bridge follows a certain path from sort of like, and this is not to decry all those other music videos, right? We're not against Young Jeezy and the Ghetto Boys in the Hood video. I'm not. Like that's one of the videos that remains clearest to this day. I'm not against the T.I. what you know about that video.
Right.
I am not against any of those things. Those are just a very particular subgenre of rap that got hyper visual in the early 2000s.
Right.
And now we're at a different time. And the reason we're at the different time, I think, has a lot to do with two people in particular, is Busta Rhymes and Missy Elliott.
Yes.
I think Missy in like, what was it? Hold on. I'm sorry. I should have had the name of this ready.
Man, that's what editing's for.
It's cool. And you're gonna talk about Odd Future, right?
Oh, of course.
We're gonna talk about Odd Future today because the person the video I'm thinking about, the Missy video I'm thinking about was, I believe, like something to do with the rain.
I Can't Stand the Rain. Yeah.
Yeah, I Can't Stand the Rain. I'm sorry, and that shit was a game changer. Yeah. That and Busta's Pass the Cavassier. The way those two videos sort of like played with the camera, played with the editing, played with the colors, and played with sort of the angles at which they saw. So I remember the Pass the Cavassier video, one of the most interesting things they did was they kept putting the camera under the table to see Busta's head pop out and like do a bunch of weird shit and then come back out. Yeah. And it was always so trippy and it was so much more entertaining than, say, the Young Jock video where everyone was standing in front of the car doing the Young Jock dance, which is cool, but the levels are just different, right? And so you have that. And slowly that seeps down into sort of the Kanye videos. Kanye has Touched the Sky, which is much more narrative, much more cinematic. Then you have people like Lupe with, what's the video where he's doing the robot? He has...
Oh, the song with Joe Scott? Daydream?
Yes. Daydreaming. Yeah. Where he literally builds a robot in a video and sort of does that. I think all that funnels in to Flying Lotus. All that funnels into a narrative, into where these kind of more... I guess super artsy videos pop out of.
Yeah. And that's what I would say is this was kind of more on the extreme and like super. I mean, he premiered this at Sundance. And if I'm not mistaken, this was one of the first music videos, especially from this type of artist, this type of genre. And he was a black man who had never made film a day in his fucking life. He was a producer, not even an artist known for creating like solo individual music or music videos. Like premiered at Sundance and it won.
It's crazy, right?
And I mean, and it's a phenomenal music video. I remember when I watched it for the first time, I cried because I had never seen a visual realization of like the type of art that I wanted to make before. You know, that was black as shit, black as fuck, but like it just told within a beautiful, like more artistic narrative, you know, but still reflecting the shit that niggas reflect in, you know, those type of verse music videos. Like it still was raunchy. It still reflected Black death. It still reflected like hood culture. It still, you know, reflected all of these things. But the way that it was delivered, the way that it was told, which was so important for our people to see, but at the same time, it was really important for everyone else outside of our community, outside of our demographic to see. And that's one of the points I want to bring up for Childish is.
We'll get into that
this
second.
Is America. Yeah, so I'm going to bring back that point.
Because you talked about Flying Lotus and his premiere. Didn't Kendrick also have a premiere at a film festival?
Kendrick Lamar premiered a music video for
Damn, right?
Yes, and that was at Sundance as well. But I mean, there were other artists. I know Kanye was attempting to premiere a part of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy at Cannes, and he actually successfully did that.
That's one of the best hip hop videos of all time. Right? Like
no question.
And it kind of it cracked the film festival industry, especially the independent film industry, which is way more known for being like way more strict on like what they allow, and especially what they allow to win. And it's one thing to let you in the door for especially diversity, whatever you want to call it. Like, yeah, but to award them for something, especially mind you, the people that are voting for these films know nothing about what they're watching. You know what I mean? Like they don't connect to that community at all or connect to the narratives being told, rather than at these type of international film festivals, that's majority of the stuff.
What's interesting is Kendrick's one of the few people that's able to do that in multiple different sort of multimedia expressions. Damn itself won a Pulitzer Prize for writing, and it premieres at a independent film festival. He's special because he can do this in a bunch of other different arenas, right? And then he has a partnership with Flying Lotus, doesn't he?
I mean, I know they've worked extensively.
They have a thing though where they make music videos or they come up with ideas together. What's the name of that group?
The Little Homies or whatever.
Yeah. Yep. That in itself, I think, to think about how far it's come from the music videos that you were talking about earlier to now, it's insane, right? The progression of hip hop music alone, but the progression of visuals within hip hop music. Speaking as someone in the industry, how important are visuals now, and what is the role of videos in like an artist and like sort of their come up?
Videos are more important than ever now because you have to tell the story. Because the audio, it does justice, but especially now because more artists are more visual. So I'll give you an example. Like one thing that we're coming across, like you need to do shorter videos, like do bits and pieces. Like what we're doing is like, because you got to think about it. If someone chops up a video and they repost it on Twitter, they repost it on social media, the views for that 30-second clip
it'd be huge,
are more than the actual video that you put on YouTube, because people's attention spans are like short,
tiny.
So you have to do that. But also, what's dope about now is all about DIY videos.
Yeah,
It's all about DIY because, at the end of the day, people, like, you spend all this money on a video and no one's really, they're going to watch it and then they're going to be like, all right.
Be over in a second.
Over. The ones that actually go are the ones that, even if they're not DIY, they look DIY.
It sort of, I think, appeals to the nature now of like everyone's
Because
independent.
because it's back to more of the idea than the actual production. You know what I'm saying?
So do you think music videos are becoming more abstract in that sense, where it's more so like trying to strike the core of what the idea was rather than all the bells and whistles associated with it?
Totally.
I mean, that makes sense because one of the artists that I really wanted to talk about as far as like their great, I mean, being a more recent artist, but their perfect execution when it comes to visuals is like DaBaby. Like, and I feel like that's,
for real, yeah.
And I think that's been a major contribution to his growth, like, especially as fast as it is like, one day, like within 24 hours, everybody was talking about the Walker Texas Ranger video. Like literally everybody, because it has such a narrative, it has such a story, and I feel like people really connected to that and like the personality of DaBaby that was able to shine. And I think that's the easiest way for people to be able to like to understand the personality of an artist. Like it doesn't have to take years of development at this fucking point and years of fucking interviews and articles and editorials. You could just have a lit ass fucking music video and everyone feels like they know you. Right. And that's what DaBaby did over and over and over again.
What's so cool is like in my head, DaBaby and Meg Thee Stallion are kind of the same person. I don't know why.
You say that a lot.
I do, and a lot of people are starting to catch on because I've seen it on Twitter more than once of like, oh yeah, these people are very similar. If you notice, if you go to Meg Thee Stallion's album, she has a song with DaBaby, and you'll see exactly
but you'll
see exactly what I mean. The cadence, the tone, the rhythm, they match each other very well.
Man, I didn't think about
and the reason that I wanted to bring that up is because this video, the Walker Texas Ranger video, is a perfect analog to all of Meg Thee Stallion's sort of blaxploitation, sort of like pin-up dress doll videos that are coming up recently, like for Fever and things like that. Even the little snippets, the visuals, it's the same idea. It's like, here's who I am, here it is all dressed up, but it's still with the DIY, sort of like, this came from my mind.
Right.
Ideal, right? Another artist that does that really well is Denzel Curry.
He does.
Yeah, super underrated. Denzel Curry exists in this weird lane of rap that was influenced just as much by Wu-Tang and Nirvana at the same time. Yeah. And that comes out a lot in his videos.
Yes.
He just released a music video for Ricky, which is really good. And then like on the Flying Lotus album, he has the Black Balloons reprise. And I'm hoping that gets a video as well.
Yes.
Because Black Balloons is one of my favorite songs, Shout Out Go Link, from last year. And to hear the reprise on this Fly Low track was amazing.
Crazy.
You want to talk about Tierra? Because while we're here, like while we're at the current people.
Well, yeah, and actually I was kind of going to bring up a good point that Nigel, you mentioned about videos needing to be short, you know, and I think that's one thing that Tierra executed so perfectly, which is like the main reason why everyone loves her right now so much is like her execution of Whack World was so perfect because she had, number one, it was only 60-second songs in the whole album, but for her to have a 15-minute visual, which was a short film in itself, which had a narrative, but you were still able to chop it up to each individual song, and it was all over Twitter, all over Instagram. And I think it did what it was supposed to do as far as like sharing short clips of music videos, whatever, online and on social media. Like it gave you just enough to make you want to go watch the video on YouTube. Right. And that's what I kept seeing Whack World, like that happening with Whack World. People retweeting the short like snippets of like her video from Fruit Salad or her video from Pet Cemetery, and people liking, and different people with different tastes liking different parts of that music video, all sharing it at the same time, and them all filtering back to this one YouTube link. Like Whack World is crazy.
That marketing idea is amazing.
So smart.
Right?
She's just so smart.
And that goes, she's a very visual artist.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what makes her so fire. I say it all the time. To me, Tierra kind of could be like the Missy for this generation.
Oh, for sure.
The way it should go. Tierra's amazing.
I think Tierra, in a lot of ways, like watching her videos, I'm reminded of like earlier Odd Future things.
That too.
Right? I'm reminded of sort of that lineage. And like, I know you were really into like the early Odd Future stuff.
Oh, for sure. Because it was just so over exaggerated in a way that we were not seeing when it came to hip hop music videos. Right. I mean, it was previous music videos are known to be like more flashy and stuff like that. But I like how Odd Future collectively kind of took that and flipped it and turned it into something super campy. Like it was over exaggerated in a childish way. You know, I like that and with that they were able to play with like different. I think they inspired a lot of other artists to like do more things, like play with different like techniques or like animation and like stuff like that. Which that makes me think of Tierra Whack's Unemployed video. And
that's what I'm thinking
walking,
of.
talking potato and shit.
Exactly.
That is so some shit that like that was all early Odd Future. That was like fart noises and like just stupid, crazy black version of Wild Boy shit.
It's crazy to see how that like comes from, right? Like there's a direct like yes. It might not be directly. Tierra Whack didn't watch an Odd Future video and then say, I'm going to make this. But it's more so the lineage of hip hop, especially with visually, is so strong. It's been passed through so many different generations. It's changed so much. It's honestly amazing. Now, there are some videos that I think attempt to do a lot of this. And that don't. One of the things that you guys are going to disagree with me on, and I'm open to have my mind changed.
Okay.
Is that I do not like Childish Gambino's This Is America video, which a lot of people would be like, oh, it's a video of like the decade. How can you guys not talk about it? So we're going to talk about it because like it's important, right? Let me make my reasoning clear as to why I don't like Gambino's music video. I have never seen something that wants to spoon feed you so much as Childish Gambino's This Is America video. I've never seen something attempt to like have hit every level of like, this is deep in like such a short span. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, all right, on the one hand, this is not a bad video, like lighting wise, technically, like it's a masterpiece there. I think a lot of the transitions are really cool. I think a lot of the way it was shot was cool. However, I don't necessarily like when artists try to give me everything. I like when I have to figure something out. I like when I have to sit there and think a little. I'm not just like, oh yeah, America's bad. Racism's bad. We don't like Trump. Gun violence. Yeah, that's a bad thing too. Cool. Check all the boxes. And like, Gambino does this thing where I think, because of the internet, I think is some of his peak video making skills, right?
Yes, and that is definitely to be noted.
Yeah.
Every single music video from Because the Internet was gold.
Is amazing, right? And I think because coming from that level and coming from so high and something so like, something that made you have to go and dig to something like This Is America was like, all right, man, you designed this to be a hit, and I guess you have a hit. But the song itself, I'm like, this is cool. It's not a great song. You listen to this, you just bumping This Is America randomly?
All right. To your point that it felt like everything was jammed in, I agree. But also that's why I loved it. Because you have a record like This Is America, literally no one could capture everything in 3 minutes or 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So you have to like kind of do the checklist thing like you said. But to me, he executed the checklist very well. And then every point in the video meant something. Like all his moves were taken from old black. Yeah. So there was meanings behind everything.
Yeah.
So that's what made it for me so fire. And the song itself, I fuck with it. Like I was like, yo,
it's cool. Like it's not amazing. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like
I understand both points, and I think for all the reasons why you disliked it, Mayron, I think that's what made me appreciate. Because when I first saw it, it definitely was like, okay, so this is just for shock value, obviously. But so that was kind of like how I took it. It's just like, this is Childish Gambino's version of camp. It's just like, here you go, niggas. But also, I mean, for all the things all the reasons and things that you said, and like I mentioned before with Flying Lotus, his music video, and the importance of it being showed at Sundances, I don't think Childish Gambino released this video with the idea that like, this is for number one, my fans, or like my old fans, or aka my black fans, to really like take anything away from this.
Interesting.
These are all the niggas that watch this that became a Childish Gambino fan by like watching all his fucking stand up. You know what I'm saying? That haven't really seen many episodes.
So you're saying this is for white people?
Yes. I think he was trying to personify and represent black people's idea of America in the way that white people would watch it and somewhat understand it. You know, and like, I still think the mark was a little bit missed because white people just choose to willfully be ignorant. And that's the thing that I feel like most people like Childish Gambino refuse to accept. Like, white people just watch it like, oh, that was cool. He was shooting up niggas and stuff. Like, oh, that was a weird ass dance. That
might be my issue is the reaction. Everyone's just like that. I'm
but
like, that's what y'all got.
I don't think that was his intention. Especially Childish Gambino. I mean, he is a genius. He's a very smart dude, but he also fucking knows it. So I feel like he was one of those niggas like, I'm gonna hit these niggas with this. I'm gonna hit these niggas with this racism. They're gonna see like how gun violence and police brutality is wrong. They're gonna like, look at all these little nigga kids getting shut up, and like, I'm gonna art like in an artsy way show these white people that like, oh, this is bad. This is America. Like, this is what it is. Like, this is black people. Like, in that way, it was supposed to be a minstrel show. but in a way of a minstrel show where white people were making fun of black people for the amusement of white people. I think he was making fun in a way of himself by that way, like representing or like showing this kind of side. He was doing the minstrel show for the white people to see, like, this isn't funny. This is fucked up.
While I totally agree with everything you said, I also think that, well, here's the thing. I agree with everything you said, and I agree that was the intention. I think as a result of me not being the intended audience,
right,
I'm just like,
left wanting.
I'm like, this is all the stuff I already knew.
And that's why I feel like he put stuff in there, like Nandra mentioned about him doing those dances, like synonymous
to at least
like,
gives people something,
right?
To like hold on to.
And that's all that the artsy fartsy black people that already were friends of Childish Gambino were kind of used to this shit. Niggas like me paid attention to if they discuss the music video. Like, niggas getting shot up, and that's cool, but you're not looking into the deeper meaning and the deeper message of that, which is exactly what he wanted.
Right.
He wanted all of this. He wanted all these different discussions, and he wanted basically, I think, his idea of his demographic to pick something from each of it. But wholly, it was not for us. It wasn't for the blacks. It was for all the whites that call themselves Childish Gambino fans, and it's like, hey, I'm still black though. I know I'm the most comfortable black guy that you know, but like, I am still a part of this community and a part of this like aspect of blackness that is like suffrage and oppression, just as much as I am like the cool black dude with no shirt walking around with my shoes off, nigga.
So you think he was talking to all his white friends?
Basically. And it's like, I'm still black. Even though I let you say nigga and I don't really say anything about it, like, I'm still black though. Like, I still don't like Trump, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I have a white wife, but I'm still fucking black. Like, you know what I mean? I think
Tom Dubois.
but yeah, I think, and I feel like Childish reflects that in his music a lot. I mean, within his music, you know what I'm saying? Camp and royalty and being the nerdy black guy who black girls didn't want, like, but still being black and still not being accepted. Like, I just feel like that grows as he grows, and this is another reflection of that.
But that's,
like,
I think, one of the things you've criticized him for on this podcast as well is you just want him to rap again.
For sure. Like that's the thing is, again, he's not looking to impress me because he already has. He's trying to impress everyone else and trying to get everybody on the way that I am. So I'm just kind of sitting here twiddling my thumbs. Like, whenever you want to get back to the bars, I would appreciate it.
Well, let me ask you guys something. We're talking about. It just hit me as we're talking. What about Joyner Lucas?
Oh, come on.
What do y'all think of his video? His video, like...
He misses the... Listen. Joyner Lucas is a very good rapper.
Right.
And Joyner Lucas can outbar a lot of people.
Right.
A lot of people, like, I remember listening to Joe Budden podcast, and I like Joe Budden, and I like his podcast, obviously. I'm a big fan, to keep it 100. But he said one of the things that made me stop the podcast and stop listening for 5 minutes because it infuriated me is when he said, Joyner Lucas is one of the best music video makers of this generation. And I was like, all right, we're done for the day. Like, I gotta listen to something else. Because this dude makes the...
Do you guys feel like he makes his videos?
It is the dumbest spoon-fed shit I've ever seen. Right? You always, like, you can't hit us with the point any harder if you're boxing me. Like, you couldn't, like, if you were trying to, like, communicate something, right? Screaming it at me is not the way to communicate it. Right? You cannot yell at me into, like, listening to your point.
Right.
You cannot appease, first of all, this whole, like, that Trump video thing, I have a lot of problems with. That whole, like, sit down, let's talk. Like, this is the white guy's perspective. This is the black guy's perspective. Yeah, I have a lot of things, like, that is really weird about that video that we won't get into. But, like, talking about Joyner Lucas as, like, a video maker in general, I respect the fact that he could rap. I do not respect when people hit you over the head with points. I'd rather you, like, get me there. Like, build a narrative. Show me how I get to the point where I understand what you're trying to say, as opposed to just being like, all right, here.
I mean, because at that point, it feels like you're not being tricked, and then it feels like, I think, you're figuring it out for yourself rather than, like, being told to feel this way.
You know what it is? Because no one likes being preached to.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, that's what all of this boils down to. No one likes being... The key is you gotta kind of, like... That's what made... If you look at the history of rap, it made certain artists... Even... So now you look at Kendrick. What makes Kendrick so dope... You can get a message out of his music, even Cole, to a degree. You get a message out of music without being preached to.
Yes, exactly.
To a degree.
Continue.
You get the message without being preached to. And it's like, that's what made the greats great. And I think if artists now could figure out how to do that, they would be out of here. Because that's what made PE to this day legendary, because they were very extreme.
Public Enemy, for those who don't know. Keep going. Yeah.
They were even NWA, like, these were extreme messages, but they delivered it in a way where you didn't even realize you were getting them. Even Tupac had that gift. You were delivering something extreme, and it was just like, oh, I didn't even know I was getting a message.
What's wild is Joyner Lucas does that with his raps, but not with his videos. Like, Joyner Lucas can rap you to a climax that is really dope, but Joyner Lucas cannot video you the same way. And the reason is I think he wants so bad to convince you of something.
The irony is that's what people rock with him for is the video.
It's interesting, right? Because, like, but people rock with, we definitely don't rock with on this podcast.
I see.
There's a strong... Well, because like the people aren't rocking with like Flylo's videos in general, like the people, right?
No, it's very niche.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And also, hold on. One point that we made on almost every episode in the beginning, I want to remake. Everyone's allowed to like what they want to like.
Especially if it's shitty. Yeah, we always say people are allowed to like bad music.
Everyone's allowed to love and find meaning in what they want to find meaning in. And everyone is allowed to be impacted by that. And our critiques of something is not an attack on art. I don't believe that Joyner Lucas's art is worth less than Flylo's. Because guess what? He worked really hard to produce it. He worked really hard to make it. And it affects a lot of people and it changes the way they think. And that is amazing. We are talking from the perspective of what we believe and what changes our minds and what helps us.
And it's okay to have different interpretations. And it's not every interpretation is going to be positive. That does not mean that the art isn't worth being praised or critiqued.
And I just want to bring that point up because I know a lot of people are immediately going to be like, nah, fuck these people. They just hate on experts.
Right.
They hate this person. Yo,
it's never that.
It's not that. But to bring it back to your point about like why people rock with it is I think a lot of people in general population, a lot of people that don't necessarily listen to music like their lives depend on it, which we definitely do, don't get the opportunity to express a lot of the feelings that Joyner Lucas expresses. Right? In everyday society, I'm an engineer in real life, right? And I work somewhere where you don't get to have these kind of conversations. You don't get to think like this. You don't get to talk about sort of the different emotions that you have and how they are translated into song. And people that love Flylo have these conversations regularly almost. Like they talk to themselves and talk to people in their friend groups where they have that conversation regularly. A lot of people that love Joyner don't necessarily have that same outlet. And so Joyner provides the most effective and efficient route to do that. So there is a lot of value in that, right? There's a lot of value of being hit over the head sometimes. Because sometimes you need to clear up your shit. Like sometimes you need to get hit in the head to keep going. But for us, where we're at least I think Bria and I are at, is like we want to see above that what is there. Like sort of, or beneath that what is there. Not sort of what is on the surface level.
Ever.
Speaking of people that I guess aren't surface level in their video making and sort of the way they think about things, one of the things I wanted to bring up was sort of Doom and his videos and the subgenre of animated videos in hip hop, which I really think like MF Doom had a huge deal in, obviously, right?
100%.
Yeah. So just sort of like going backwards with like all of MF Doom's videos not for the most part, but were animated. And that animation sort of has had a weird trajectory sort of on the way down. I know for this Flylo album, most recently, he released a video with Anderson .Paak
that was
called More. Yeah, completely animated, and it was amazing. And then last year, no worries, Anderson .Paak and NX released a really gorgeous animated video as well. And one day we're gonna do a podcast about hip hop in its relation to anime.
Oh, can't wait.
Yeah, and hip hop in its relation to sort of like, you know, the anime culture and the Japanese culture. But what's interesting is how it's infiltrated its way into sort of the video scene, starting with sort of the comic book stuff of MF Doom and then going all the way down to Anderson .Paak and Flylo and all these other people. And I don't have all the videos in the world right in front of me, but I would gander to say that like that is how I guess this whole like lo-fi chill beats to get into thing. That's a lot of how that started. Was sort of like these animated music videos.
Oh yeah, and
100%.
Vine is so much of that.
100%. There's a whole scene of that. Like you go on YouTube, all you see is like all these like anime videos, and it's all like lo-fi.
Yeah, it's sort of like the AMV culture as well, like the animated music video culture, where they took like scenes from different like Naruto or something like that, and they put like music behind it.
Scored it,
and they scored it. Sort of the scoring and using hip hop differently, I think, right? Because like we've talked about hip hop used in music videos as reporting or realism or exaggeration. this is using hip hop music in a completely different way as like background music.
Right.
As like music that like you would put in a movie.
Right.
Music that you would do.
And I was going to point out, and I like how that kind of reflected from going to animation to like live action videos like Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill. I mean, or even like his recently Django, like having hip hop be the scoring or the instrumentation like to these like and then elaborate fight scenes.
And then Wu-Tang had a really bad martial arts video that they released a couple years ago that was completely scored by RZA. It has an amazing score, obviously, it's just pretty bad movie. But like also like Tyler the Creator and The Grinch.
Yep.
Right? He did a great job like releasing this score to the Grinch movie, and then Chance and Jeremiah and their Christmas albums. It's really interesting, right? Like how that sort of happened. So I don't know. Visuals are a lot.
It's a lot. Because there's different spectrums. There's like, you have the music video aspect of it. But now we've moved on. It's deeper than music videos. You have to have actual visual content around yourself. Whether it's like, it could be anything. It could be documenting just your day-to-day life,
like
vlogs, whatever. It all encompasses the same thing now. As an artist, you can't just do a music video. You have to do content.
Like behind the scenes of that music video, and then like
exactly. Yeah. All the footage, everything, like anything your mind or your creative director can come up with, you just do it.
So before the podcast started, we were talking about the different roles people play as A&R and managers. Can you talk about like the role of the creative director and what that means for an artist in regards to music videos and things like that?
Like, to me, the creative director is pretty much the person the artist goes to get ideas for everything. And the creative director, it could be one person or a whole team. They come up with the concepts for the videos. They come up with the concepts of the photo shoots. They come up with concepts of artwork for everything, for singles, for EP covers, album covers. Anything dealing with the artist, with being presented to the public outside of music, that's the creative director.
And this is generally a collaborative process, I imagine, with the artist.
Because every artist that you guys see has a creative director. Everybody. Even if they don't talk about it, they have a team or they have a creative director that's doing all the ill shit.
So one of the reasons I want to bring this up is we have yet to talk about, I think, the Michael Jackson of our generation, Beyonce, and her visuals, right? And how powerful those albums, that visual album that she released was, and sort of her Lemonade, like that music video moment, and sort of how that was a culmination of a creative director, of a creative team to create, I think, what is I would say like the pinnacle of like music video making for the mainstream and for everyone else to that. I think one of the things that goes underappreciated about it is that it takes a whole village to do this.
Yeah.
Facts. And it does.
And I think one of the things that we did when highlighting all these music videos today is we want to be very cognizant of these other people. So of the Hype Williams of the world, the other directors of the world.
Nabil.
Yeah, Nabil. Who are working very hard to make this happen. There's a lot of space within the industry to maneuver and to sort of express yourself. And this is one of the most important ways to do so. I think not enough people are not sold, but given even the aspiration of like, hey, maybe you don't want to be a rapper. Maybe this is your thing instead.
Exactly.
And especially when bringing more like minority faces to it and making sure.
The dope thing about now, the average, like, just for me personally, the average, any artist I meet, like on the come up, they don't even realize they've put a team together without even realize. Like, I'll meet someone, they'll be like, oh yeah, this is my homeboy. He does all my visuals. My homegirl does all my merch. My other homeboy, he helps me out with the music and my writing. And just, I'm like, yo, this is your creative team. They were like, really? I was like, yeah, you have a team. Everyone, without realizing it, is to your point, everyone realizes I don't have to be a rapper. I don't have to be a singer. I could be friends with the rapper or singer and help them with all their visuals.
Right. And still have just as much of a creative outlet.
Exactly. Have the same plug and move with them the same way. Because the reason creative director is so important, because also it reciprocates to touring and shows. You have to have your AV set up. You got to make sure someone has to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, even if artists don't have a creative director, I find one for them because I'm like, well, you're going to drive yourself crazy trying to do everything. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to bring someone on to tell you what to do, but someone to help you elevate your eye. Because you have amazing ideas, you just don't know how to translate them. So bring someone on who can translate it, you're golden. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
I think that's ultimately what the expression of a music video is. It's a translation of the music to the visual scene.
Right.
And I think what makes it so powerful, like Bria was saying in the beginning, is that is a whole different medium for which someone to understand and experience the emotions that you're trying to give with music.
Yeah.
So I think to end it off today, what are some of your favorite music videos that you want people to go watch?
Oh, Jesus. Favorite off the cuff. I would say Kendrick Lamar, These Walls. That's one of my favorite music videos / short films of all time. All time. Obviously, Flying Lotus Until the Quiet Comes, but my favorite Flying Lotus music video now is Cornish the Terminator. Phenomenal music video. Every single music video that Childish Gambino released from Because of the Internet. So that's 3005, the song that he has Janae Aiko, and I want to say 2 more. All phenomenal. And lastly, I would say newer artists whose visual... Oh, Lapalux. I'm sorry. You definitely have to watch Lapalux's Without You. That was also an independent film award-winning music video. Lapalux has crazy music videos. Very to the note of like Flying Lotus, but like way more weird and in-depth. And lastly, newer artists that I'm fucking with. I'm a huge fan, again, like I said, DaBaby's music videos. They have like all been really funny, from like Pony to Suge. It's just a great visualization of like him and his character and his personality and his like artistry. I think he's one of the few modern artists that are executing that, as well as, obviously Tierra Whack. If you have not watched the 15 Minutes of Whack World, number 1, wake up, good morning, and number 2, watch that. What about you, Nigel?
Oh my God, this is where I always have a brain freeze. But I'll give you 3 artists who I love everything they do.
Okay.
I love all Steve Lacy's visuals.
Oh my God, yes, times 10. Forgot him.
Every visual from Steve Lacy.
Every single one.
Is amazing. All Tierra Whack's videos are very amazing. All Frank Ocean's videos are very amazing.
Yes.
Oh shit! How the fuck did we got there?
That's why I could not.
Pyramids alone. I was like,
I couldn't leave this podcast without talking about Nabil, but I actually want to have an episode where we talk about like actual figures, like we talk about. Like I would love to do an evolution of Hype Williams and an evolution of Nabil, because Nabil has honestly given you a lot of your favorite music videos.
I've actually worked with Nabil a couple times, and Nabil. The dope thing about working with Nabil is like, he's the type. He's exactly what you expect. Like, if he only works with artists he really, really fucks with.
That is so obvious.
Yeah. If he doesn't fuck, it's not even about money. It's like, and he's very, whether it's doing a photo shoot or whether he's doing a video, like he's so like, he pushes.
Yeah.
You
know what I'm saying? And I've worked with him maybe 2 or 3 times, and I was just like, every time it's always like fire. Yeah, because that's just the type of dude he is.
Right, just a brief introduction into Nabil. I mean, he's given you basically all of your favorite, if not all of Frank Ocean's music videos. Then he transferred to a lot of TDE shit. He did a lot of Kendrick Lamar videos, a lot of SZA videos. I mean, most recently he did Travis Scott's video, which is fucking phenomenal. Like he gave you your favorite early FKA Twigs music videos. Like his track record is crazy.
His track record is crazy. So there's so much to choose from. There's so much we didn't go over. Like we didn't go over for Burrell, and we didn't.
Fuck.
We'll do a part. We
have to do a part 2.
We'll do a part 2 for sure. But for me, my favorite videos are kind of like typical, but whatever. Like the California Love video with Tupac and Dr. Dre.
Oh, that was amazing.
It's just amazing, right? Because like just the scale of it and like sort of the effects of it, the message for sure.
Ooh,
yeah, but so that's your shit, right? Like that's back in the day.
My time,
Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5. Like that is a defining both song and video for generations to come. I would say Jesus Walks by Kanye West for sure, because like it's just, again, the levels of impact a song can have are super hyper exaggerated by the video. If the video is amazing, it can change the way the song is viewed for sure. So I would start with those, and I mean most people have seen them, but that's fine. That's absolutely fine. No need not to watch them again. So I think that's where we'll end it off. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We've released a couple playlists that go along with episodes, so feel free to listen to those. I've also been releasing smaller playlists on SoundCloud, just doing a sort of roundup of all the different releases in the past week, and then sort of like putting them out. So some of the like the highlights of the week. So all our episode playlists, so if you want a playlist to go along with the episode you're listening to, are found on iTunes on Ria's page, which we'll tweet out. Then if you go to our SoundCloud, there's playlists for like what you should have listened to this week.
I've been very inspired from this episode to do a thread of popular music videos. So I'll start with the ones that we discussed in this episode, and I'll probably do threads within that of other ones that we weren't able to mention. So please tell me your favorite music videos, the ones that have inspired you from like back when you were a kid to now, and why. I would love to know what you were inspired by.
Yeah, and the best way to get in contact with us is tweet the page or DM the page, and so at a hip hop podcast.
Yeah.
So and we're on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. So pretty much you could find us anywhere. Thanks again. This has been another hip hop podcast. Peace and love.
See you later. Follow us.
Later.
Wait, when does it come back in?
Hey guys, Bria the Curator here. Thank you for listening. Just wanted to let you guys know that we're officially on Apple, the whole podcasting thing. So click that button, follow, subscribe. We're also on SoundCloud and Spotify. So follow us on all the things. It'll be worth it. Thanks.